let's talk about posture. You know, people just starting out often have a lot of questions about the approach to the keyboard. I would just say this: there are textbook examples. An average music school, or a tutor or piano coach, if you will, they will always encourage you avoid slouching, use correct form and leave your arms as straight as possible. Sort of get that 90-degree bend at your elbow so the keyboard isn't too low or too high. The idea behind that is so the musician is comfortable and you can concentrate better when you are comfortable. There's a lot of different environments that people play in. If you're home and you practice that form and that's what you're accustomed to, usually you'll do it sitting down, much like I am right now. The question has to be asked, what if you play standing up? Oftentimes the keyboard is lower, not quite waist level. The benefit of stands is that they do adjust. With that, I would say, depending on your environment, you might not always have, the option that you prefer. So just keep that in mind, and be careful, because along the way, with any new musician who's growing into their craft, or what have you, you can develop bad habits. So that's a little bit about posture, and I think along the way you'll definitely discover what's most comfortable to you. Concerning the use of the pedal on an acoustic built piano, you will find that there are 3 pedals. Typically they all have a different range of how long they'll sustain a note. But with the use of the pedal, I just want to touch on that briefly. And what we'll do is we'll adjust the camera, and I will give you a breakdown, a description of the actual movements and the usage of the pedal. All right, so as you can see on the camera, here's our sustain pedal. And the main function of the pedal is to basically allow the note to sustain when you're transitioning. You have an in-between part, from note or chord to chord. So a good example would be if I hit a chord and then I hit the pedal, when I lift, the pedal remains and so does my chord. Okay, it'll fade out, but it's adjusted so that it's long enough so that I don't have dead air in between my transition to the next chord. So once again, I hit the next chord and I lifted the pedal. So you'll get this more instinctively, and it will become more fluid as you play. So you'll just know when to do it. It's not, any one set of rules. It's just something that you'll feel it out more in your playing. No matter what the speed of the song, you'll just know to do it. So okay, so again, you want that note to ring when you're making the transition. So chord, pedal. Okay, and usually when you get to the next chord, you immediately lift, and what you'll do is shortly thereafter, you'll just press the pedal again. Lift and pedal. Pedal. Lift and pedal. You can definitely overuse the pedal, so be wary of that. Even, just to give you a bad example of what not to do, the overuse of the pedal will basically, it's the good intention and use of it is to help the chords become fluid when you're transitioning, But the negative side to that is basically when the pedal remains, then all the sounds that don't belong together begin to get just, you create a vacuum where it's just one big lump of sounds, and everything is extremely, it's not pleasing to listen to. And it just by way of how all the scales are mixing where they shouldn't be. So, bad example. So if you listen closely enough, you can definitely hear that what's happening is all the sounds now are just resting on top of each other, and it gets very muddy, very confusing, and you get tones that don't belong, like next to each other, if you will, and it just gets very confusing to the listener, so it's not very palatable musically. So be careful of the overuse of the pedal, but basically, once again, that's it. It's just chord, transition, lift, pedal, lift, pedal, lift, pedal. Okay, and the pedal can remain down when you're just doing some chord work or arpeggiating, but with a lot of what we're going to do in the workshops, we're going to incorporate a way to practice that. And when you're using the pedal, just make sure that you allow your ear to be sensitive to pick up on those things that really may get too close, or the chords that begin to overlap. Allow your ear to be sensitive to that, and I think you'll understand it more clearly.